Hello again, everybody. I'm back with another video about somebody being weird with kids on the internet again. I can already feel a stroke coming on, and I'm not even 2 lines into this video. However, before I get into the general depravity that is the situation, I'm sure that you realize that I am using new sprites. And no, I suddenly did not get leagues better at art. These sets of sprites were actually a gift from me from one of my fantastic friends over at Discord. Her tag is on screen now. That's how she said she wanted to be credited. She is just super talented, and I am eternally grateful for the sprites that she made for me because my old ones were getting kind of outdated, and these ones just look so crisp and nice, and I owe my life to her. Anyways, I'm just going to cry in the corner now, but anyways, I have known the situation for a good few months at this point. I never really covered it because I felt that Daft Peanut's video did a good enough job of, going over the whole situation, and since the guy had deleted his channel after that, I thought the whole situation was over and done with and went along with my business. However, it has recently come to my attention via PrisonMate Luke's video that this dude's channel has been revived, and he's back with a response video where he basically just admits to everything in it. The ratings and comments have been disabled, but before he decided to take the coward's way out and shut out any form of criticism he could possibly get, the response to him was disgustingly positive. The like to dislike ratio was decent, it wasn't good, but they were more likes, and there were a lot of comments supporting the guy, even after he admitted to dating a minor and being awful to them. However, before I get into this gross situation, I want to thank all of you for 50,000 subscribers. I'll keep it brief. I don't want to drag the centro out more than I already have, but I will be making good on my promise, and after this video gets out, I will be working on that meme folder I promised you guys. But with that, let's get into the topic at hand. Cosmodore is, or was, a review YouTuber. He reviews shows, movies, animated things, you get the idea, and he has over 200,000 subscribers and is verified on YouTube. Cosmo had deleted his channel before this whole thing happened, and it's unfortunate that he dragged his mangled corpse of a channel back from the grave to make this terrible response video, because now we have to review this garbage fire of a situation. 4 months ago, Daft Peanut and Ponder Sprocket made a video basically going through everything this guy did, and while they went far more in-depth in their video, I'll simply be going over an abridged version here in mine. Basically, what happened was that this guy, when he was 19, was dating a 15-year-old. He admits to going offline for a while just to get a reaction out of her, as well as asking her friends what she thought about him, as well as just exhibiting kind of stalkery behavior in general after they had broken up. They shared Rule 34 with each other, and Cosmo even planned to go meet up with her at MomoCon, which was an anime/animation convention, but the only reason he didn't go through with it was because he had just bought a computer. And there's probably a joke to be made in there somewhere, but I digress. It is quite obviously super not okay that this happened, and he should not have a platform in my opinion. There's some people that argue that he should be given a second chance, but I quite frankly do not feel comfortable with somebody with that kind of past having pretty much any online presence, because if there's one thing we know about the internet, it's that pretty much any subject, any type of content, anything really, there will at least be a handful of minors in the community. Overall, I don't understand why some people don't completely support groomers being booted offline entirely, because it's just beyond me how you can advocate for someone still being able to have a platform even after they've harmed children. That's just not something you can forgive and move past, and it's baffling how many people initially supported this guy even after knowing what he did, after watching him point blank just straight up admit to it. It's insane really, but I'm getting ahead of myself. There are 2 responses this guy put out, and I'll respond to them both in this video. Initially, he had tweeted this out, which reads as follows. Earlier this year, I started dating someone 4 years my junior. I was 19 at the time, they were 15. We were only texting, never met in person, I never even had a photo of them, but that is not an excuse. I knew it was a bad decision, but I did not want to admit that to myself. I've made a lot of poor choices this year, but this one's been eating me up the most. I tried breaking it up multiple times because I knew it would end up hurting them, and that's exactly what happened. I feared the thought of being alone too much to make the rational decision. I am extremely sorry for what I did, and I advise you to not be like me. This is riddled with downplaying and lies by omission. Cosmo actually admits what he was doing was wrong and that he knew that, but he was just so hung up on his own loneliness that he couldn't stop himself from victimizing a literal child. Was that supposed to make us feel sorry for you, or to get us on your side? Because if anything, it does the opposite and makes you even more detestable. And yes, you didn't meet up with them, but you conveniently forgot to mention that you wholeheartedly had the intent to. This initial statement is a really watered down version of what happened, so let's get into his more recent statement. I will not be going through the entire thing because that would take quite a while, but I will be responding to select parts of it, starting with the part where he says this.
Back at the end of 2018, I met this person online who was unlike anyone I've ever met before. They spoke their mind like no one I knew in real life. They had amazing talents that I knew would get them far in life. They had a great sense of humor. The only problem was they were underage. Now for context, the age of consent where I live is 14.
First of all, it's so gross how he talks about that minor, especially knowing what happened between them. It just sounds very creepy the way he describes all their qualities, as if that made the fact that they were a minor any less relevant. Please shut the fuck up, dude. I am sure that this person was all those things you said and more, but the only part we really need to know is that they were underage, you were overage, and a fucking story. Secondly, the age of consent laws in Germany don't matter, considering that the person you victimized did not live in a place where those laws would apply. You go on to say that you don't agree with it or whatever, and that you use it as a tool to justify this whole thing to yourself, which is still disgusting. And for the people parroting this argument as if it makes it any better, I also request for you to shut the fuck up. 14 is not an acceptable age of consent. I do not care what the law says, it's fucked up and immoral no matter how much you twist it. It is the same thing with Japan. Using that as an excuse is incredibly stupid, because anywhere else, a 13-year-old and an adult is not acceptable, but apparently because the law says so, and you like the person who violated that law, it's okay. So please, again, I suggest you just get off the internet for a while. It would be better for everyone involved. Continuing with the video, he says this next.
At that point, I had already fallen for this person and tried really hard to be with them. I would go days without going online to somehow get them to notice me. I would ask around their friends if they felt about me the same way, and it worked. We started dating. This was all online, by the way, and it was great. I couldn't have been happier, and because the environment I grew up in didn't make me think there was anything wrong with our relationship, I never really questioned it either.
Keep in mind, he is talking about a 15-year-old. Like, he's reminiscing upon this as if they were, oh yeah, good times, the fun times when I groomed that minor. Like, holy shit, dude, at least acknowledge how this great relationship that made you so happy negatively affected the 15-year-old, because they're gonna have to live with that for the rest of your lives. I don't care how happy the relationship made you, it was still incredibly fucked up.
The only thing we did that I sincerely wish I could undo was that we'd share Rule 34 between each other. This was meant purely as a joke between us. I had no sexual intentions whatsoever, but it did happen, albeit that it started back when I didn't know their age yet. I didn't think anything of it at the time, but I understand now that it was completely inappropriate, and I will take full accountability for it.
I wonder where I've heard that one before. For the last time, people, verify the person's age before you share inappropriate photos with them. I don't get how that's so hard to understand. Cosmo says that this was before he knew the person he was talking to was underage, but that still doesn't excuse the fact that you should have checked. You should have checked that they were over 18, and if not, you should have stopped. Clearly, that would not have stopped you either way, because you still did it and you still dated them when they were a minor. It is just so gross how completely negligent you acted in this situation, and I don't know why that's not like the first thing you think of when you share NSFW with somebody. Hey, maybe this person is a minor, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. But no, you just go right along with it. I don't understand why people do that, but anyways, it's just way too common.
What I also take accountability for is that although I tried very hard to be with this person because I did care for them a lot, I was also very new to relationships and didn't always treat them the best. I would criticize them more harshly than was warranted. I would throw words their way that I really wish I could take back, and also talk shit about them behind their back. I was not a good partner, and they rightfully cut ties with me after a while, which was when I started to develop feelings for another person who was 17 at the time.
Honestly, dude, what the fuck is this? You lured a child into a relationship with you, but even though they apparently made you so incredibly happy, you chose to be the shittiest partner you could possibly be to them? Being new to relationships isn't shit-talking them behind their back and being really mean to them to their face. Being new to relationships is stuff like, being awkward or showing affection, overbearing PDA, harmless shit like that. Because you don't suddenly act atrocious to somebody because you're in a relationship with them. Why suddenly would you shift from being like friends and you're normal to them, but then the moment you get romantically involved you start doing all that horrible stuff? Like, why? That's not a shift that makes sense, But anyways, this is just a very bad response if you ask me. Anyways, this has gone on for a bit too long, and on to the next segment. Now, I covered this in the beginning of the video, but before bigger YouTubers started covering this drama, the response to him was mostly positive. A lot of people had liked the video and commented things like, "Oh, I'm so glad you're doing better," and "Poor guy, he's been through so much," and other bullshit like that. He's turned off his comments and ratings now like an absolute coward, but it's just unacceptable the amount of people that were coming out and supporting him, even after he admitted to a bunch of really horrible shit. Grooming a minor is not a mistake or anything that should be forgiven so easily. If you are not a victim of Cosmo's actions, you have no right to forgive him. This is a prime example of why young children should not be on the internet, especially now. There have been so many people coming out and being exposed for being weird with kids online, and you know, kids are kids, they have no life experience and simply just do not know better. As much as these comments anger me, I have to remember that most of them are likely other children that have no frame of reference for how bad what this guy did was. And if they see people acting nice towards people like this, they're obviously going to follow the herd and be nice too, even though they cannot grasp how bad the situation really is. I know this is a super long shot, but I just hope that the amount of people coming out as being inappropriate with minors doesn't desensitize people to how despicable their actions are, because after all, no amount of pandering and "I had mental health issues" can fix what they did to the minors in question. If this guy truly knew what was good for him, he wouldn't be online trying to explain himself. He wouldn't be out here reviving his dead channel to make response videos. He'd be far away from a platform, getting help, and living his life away from the internet. It is terrible how he's still trying to push on with this, because the best thing to do for everybody involved is just for him to go away for good, because there's no space on any platform for groomers.
Bota la lata, weonado, ¿qué me importa que seas del campo?
Overall, it's really despicable how this guy came back to YouTube and also expects people to just welcome him back, as if saying, "Oh, I'm sorry I groomed a minor," would just, you know, exonerate him of everything he did. It's even worse that until people brought light to this, he was getting support. Way too much support. You should not support people like this. I thought that would be like a fairly common thing for people to think, but apparently it's just not the case, because we've seen it a couple times. We're seeing it with Pyrocynical, we're seeing it with Red Kiwis, and we're seeing it now. But the main thing that those three people have in common is that they have a child fan base, and you know, children just latch onto their idols like it's the last thing they'll ever do, and they'll defend them to the bitter end, which is again why we really shouldn't be letting children online, because they're just gonna do shit like this when they have no idea how bad what they're doing is. Anyways, I'd hope that this is the last thing I have to cover in a situation like this, but I know full well I'm going to be covering things like this in the very near future. Unfortunately, that's just been happening a lot this year. I guess it's better just have them out than to have them keep doing what they're doing. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to like it and subscribe if you want to get more content from me. Like I said before, I am working on getting that meme folder out to you guys. It will be out within the next day or so. Thank you so much for 50k. I really appreciate all the support, and with that, I'm out of here. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.